This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. I'm delighted to say that the Portmeister has joined us in the studio. A very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yes, good morning, Mike. Great to be here again. And I've been listening to you prattling on about the Steven Gerrard situation.
What do you mean, prattling on?
Prattling on. Well, you haven't considered...
giving my opinion.
You haven't considered one of the major aspects of what this is all about.
What is it all about, then?
Perhaps Steven Gerrard doesn't want to play for Roy Hodgson anymore.
That's possible.
That is possible, and that is, in my view, highly likely.
Why do you say that, though?
Well, the reason I say that is because our World Cup campaign was a disgrace in Brazil.
So was the last one, which he was also a captain of England in, though.
Well, you're talking about the European Championship.
No, I'm talking about in South Africa.
In South Africa, it was a bit of a shambles, but at least it was a different manager. But what I'm saying is, he comes out of this situation. I mean, most people can't even remember England even being in the World Cup that we've just had this summer.
I mean, when they play the highlights, I don't think England are in it at all, are they?
There aren't any highlights. There weren't any highlights of the England campaign, so how could they be in the highlights programme? There were no highlights.
All right, calm down.
So if there's no highlights, there's nothing you can do about putting them into the highlight show. Now, the point is, Steven Gerrard comes away from that, and he said, several times, I've taken advice from loads of people.
Close friends.
That in itself, to me, is a man who hasn't actually got his mind in the right place.
Do you think that's code for something?
I make major decisions about my life, the only person I consult is myself.
Well, that's because nobody else will talk to you about it.
That's not actually true.
When was the last time you made a serious decision about your life?
I make serious decisions about my life every day. I'm telling you, I do.
Well, do you make one today, then?
I did.
What did you make today?
I'm getting another tooth operation tomorrow morning at 10:30, and I rang up today and told them I wanted it, and I didn't take the idea that there was no room and all that.
You're not becoming addicted to pain.
No.
You're not like one of these people that they make programmes about on Channel 5.
Well, it's funny you should say that, but this operation I'm having tomorrow, Paul Gascoigne had it 2 weeks ago, and he told the dentist to do it without anaesthetic, because he was so terrified of becoming addicted to the anaesthetic they were giving him.
Really?
Yeah, honestly.
What, Novocaine? He didn't give you Novocaine.
I presume it's Novocaine, because that's what they inject into my gob. In fact, funny enough, when I go to the dentist, Mike, I'm a real coward when it comes to pain. And I always say to my dentist, please give me the maximum amount of Novocaine.
Yeah.
And so the guy gives me 2 injections, and then he's got this little thing that he prods into my
see if it still hurts.
And I keep saying, no, more.
Yeah.
And in fact, last time I came out of a dentist, my right arm was stuck out, as though I was saluting Hitler.
It's not meant to go into your arm. It's not meant to go into your arm.
No, but I had so much put in, it went down my neck and into my shoulder, and it froze my shoulder, yeah.
That doesn't sound that this man's being entirely responsible with his medication.
Oh, no, he's a brilliant dentist, but I just insisted on having more. I wouldn't let him get going until I had more of the pain number.
That'll be why you can't speak for hours on end.
It could be, yeah. I mean, it's a good job we're not doing a show tomorrow night. So I'd be like that, you see, because the old Novocaine. Some people would say, actually, that made more sense in those few seconds there than I normally make.
Yes, indeed.
When I haven't got a face full of Novocaine.
Absolutely. Well, now, back to Steven Gerrard. Let's look
let's back to Steven Gerrard. Now, the reason I bring this up is because, of course, having my eye on the world of sport, the world of football, we realise that Dunga is just hours away, probably, from being appointed the new Brazilian coach, OK?
Is he?
So Brazil have got a new coach.
We'll find out from Tim Vickery about that shortly.
Yeah, we certainly will. Italy are going to get a new coach, following a disastrous campaign in the same group as us.
Prandelli.
OK, absolutely. Yeah. But is England going to get a new coach?
No.
Well, no sign of that at all.
Did you see that poll in the Times? There was a poll in the Times yesterday, and I could tell that it was being done by, or being answered, shall we say, by very disappointed football fans.
Right.
75% of them said he should not be sacked, Hodgson, right?
Unbelievable.
But they also said, to a large extent, I think 60% of them said that England's performance during the World Cup had no effect on the national psyche. Well, of course, if their performance had been any good, it would have had a massive effect on the national psyche. Look at Germany, they're still partying, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, and by the way, wasn't it great that when the Germans got back to Germany, what was the vehicle that hauled them through Berlin? It was a huge Mercedes truck, specially built for that celebration. Yeah. That's how confident the Germans were. How long do you think it takes to build a truck? It doesn't take a few hours. You don't suddenly get Germany winning the World Cup and then Mercedes say, right, we're going to have an open-top truck, build it now. They built it weeks in advance, months in advance, and they had this truck ready for the German team to bring home the cup. I mean, that's what you call national confidence, isn't it? That is what you call getting it right. That is what you call a sense of self-belief. We don't have any of that in England. Right. Now, what I'm saying is, Stephen Gerrard...
Stephen Gerrard has now decided that he doesn't have any belief in Roy Hodgson.
Well, I can't speak for Stephen Gerrard. My brain isn't Stephen Gerrard's brain, but I mean...
Luckily for him.
Well, yes, OK, some would say that. Mind you, if he had my brain, he'd have quite a lot of intelligence as well as football knowledge and football skill. I'm not saying he's unintelligent, but I clearly know more about what's going on in the world than Stephen Gerrard does.
You know more about 1977. You did well on that quiz the other day.
A, because I'm older, but B, because, of course, I'm a well-read man. Stephen Gerrard doesn't have to be a well-read man because he's a very intelligent and skillful footballer.
Intuitive, you're thinking of?
No, I'm saying that I'm well-read because I've pored over books all my life and studied information and absorbed facts and got it all in my head.
You might be dropping yourself into a new quiz at
So
this
what I'm saying is, I believe that a lot of the factor, which we haven't mentioned yet because you haven't been bright enough to get to this so far, is the Roy Hodgson factor. Well, because I've been listening to you assess the story and address the story, and you haven't once mentioned...
you've got no evidence for
you
this
haven't mentioned Roy Hodgson.
Well, we've talked about Roy Hodgson. You must not have been hearing it.
Well, I wasn't hearing what you were saying, but then again, a lot of it goes whoosh over my head, when you're talking. It goes this way and that way.
Stop talking for a minute now.
Knock my headphones off.
Yeah, I know. That's when Toby Gillis and I were talking. He said maybe they didn't get on that well when Roy Hodgson was at Liverpool, and I think there have been those who have suggested that. I don't know if that's true.
None of the players got on with him at Liverpool.
I don't know if that's true.
None of the players got on with him at Liverpool.
Maybe that's part of it. I do honestly believe that it's all about Liverpool being the Champions League. If Liverpool had come 10th and they weren't playing in Europe, I think he would have continued to play for England.
No, I don't think so. I think he's decided now that the next England campaign could be even more disastrous than the last one. Remember, our first competitive game, we've got a friendly first. But
Switzerland, isn't it?
Switzerland, yeah. A team who got further than us in the World Cup, and we're supposed to walk through this group, and it looks as though we're going to be in a battle for the top with Switzerland.
It'll be another horrible night.
This is what I'm saying. Do you really think Stephen Gerrard wants to finish his career on an international low by having a second...
But he's already finished it on international low.
Yes, he has. But to compound that with another international low, no, he's too bright for that. He said, I'm getting out now. He saw what Alan Shearer managed to do and put international football behind him. Paul Scholes put international football behind him. Stephen Gerrard now putting international football behind him to get on with it. And that is another major blow for the status of international football.
It's in this country, yes, but not in every other country.
No, in this country,
in this country, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And when you've got players who don't want to play for England anymore, and that's largely, in my view, that is largely because of the quality and the calibre of the manager. I mean, what are England actually doing? As, you know, an investigation or an examination of what happened.
You came in here and said that there were forces afoot inside the FA some weeks ago that might be pressuring Roy Hodgson to leave.
No, I didn't say that.
I don't know whether that's still going on.
No,
I don't know whether they haven't succeeded. I don't know whether he's managed to stop that from happening. Right. I just don't know.
Well, what I said that just because Greg Dyke gave, Roy Hodgson a knee-jerk, and it was a knee-jerk reaction after going out of the World Cup, and knee-jerkingly Greg Dyke said he'll be there for the 2016 campaign. That doesn't mean to say he will be.
No, it doesn't.
That's all I'm saying, because although there's no sort of powerful international committee at the moment, it's all run by sort of Club England, that sort of stuff. Nevertheless, you have councillors on the FA Council who are appointed to the international committee, and they will want to raise the issue and put their heads above the parapet because they feel they've been usurped in the way that things are run and that power's been taken off them.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. Right, Porky Parry is here.
By the way, I'm going to tell you about my retirement plans.
Yeah, we'll hear about your retirement plans. Are they coming sooner or later?
Well, I will talk to you about them, but you can't just be as blithe as that. Sooner, later, in between, long term, short term. I can explain it all, but I need a bit more time.
Well, short term would be good because it's already time for us to go away for a little while, look into the light for 5 minutes and see whether or not you can get some of your brain capacity back. This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. You'll recognise that song, of course.
That's a great song, that.
Isn't it?
I didn't know that was R.E.M.
Didn't you?
Because I went to see David, our producer.
No,
and
he didn't tell you, did he?
No, he did.
He's told you, hasn't he? He spoiled the whole thing.
He told me, yeah.
He's ruined the show now. I knew you would never recognise that.
No. And I said, look, why don't we put on Sting's record, Walking on the Moon,
Right, by the Police.
Yeah, by the Police. That's right, Sting and the Police. What is it?
Sting and the Police. It was just the Police.
What's what's the line? Is it
giant steps are what we take?
That's right. You take giant steps.
No, not you take. Giant steps.
We take
giant steps are what we take.
Giant steps are what we take.
Walking on the
moon. That's right. Yeah.
I hope my legs don't break.
I hope my legs don't break. Walking on the moon, and of course he's referring to the lack of gravity on the moon, isn't he? So that you bounce actually when you walk on the moon.
Why would your legs break?
Well, in case you came down too heavy on something, I suppose.
You wouldn't, would you? There's no gravity.
Well, we don't know until you get there, do you? Anyway,
I think we do know.
Yeah, well, we don't know because we haven't walked on the moon. But anyway, look, we'll talk about that in a second.
Could walk on the moon.
About my retirement plans, which I need to tell you about.
Okay.
I am the human equivalent of the sniffer dog at the airport, okay?
Are you?
Yeah, I'm busy all the time.
Spaniel. Usually a
spaniel.
Like
a spaniel. That's like a spaniel. And then you see them running around. See them running around, like busy all the time.
I saw one on the tube the other day.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Looking for bombs and things.
Yeah, but it was funny enough, it was on the anniversary of 7/7, and it was an army guy with a spaniel sniffing.
Well, funny enough, there's one station I used to come out of London, and I hadn't really noticed for years. There's a chap walks up and down with a dog and a high-vis jacket on, and he is literally the dog is to be alerted to any explosive devices.
Right.
So
you know, these dogs.
Yeah, we all think that the terrorist threat's gone away, but people are still very vigilant about it. But anyway, the point of the story is, I love seeing those sniffer dogs because they're so busy, and it's just their life. Their life is to be busy. Their life is to be, sniffing out danger and to making humans alert to the prospect of
They've got a very short career span, haven't they?
Well, yeah, but they have such busy lives. Now that's what you should have in life. You should have a busy.
Why?
If you have a busy life, you have a fulfilled life. You live longer. Your brain doesn't degenerate. You have a purpose.
You say you're an example of this, are you? Your brain's degenerated before my very eyes.
No. I'm an example of this. I'm an example of this because I have considered the aspect of retirement, and it simply won't work. It won't work for you, and it won't work for me, because you've got to have some focal point in your life. It would be easy for me to retire to Northumberland and buy a cottage on the coast and a couple of Labradors and go walk up and down the beach all day, exercising my dogs, and then walking over to St Mary's Mount.
Well, what's wrong with that? Sounds great.
Well, no, it's because what would the purpose of my life be? What is the meaning of life? That to be.
Well, what's the purpose of your life now?
The purpose of my life now is to try and engage with millions of our listeners in meaningful debate. To try and alert
people. Keep yourself busy.
Try to alert people to the things that they need to be alerted about.
I see.
To inform, to help, to justify, to assist.
Well, you could do that. You could
try and make people's lives fuller and better.
You could get a soapbox at Bamborough Castle and stand outside Bamborough Castle and just spout off, and that would keep you busy.
Could do.
Talk to a couple of dozen people a day.
Yeah, well, okay, but I prefer talking to a couple of million, actually,
I know
because I think that's more benefit to society. Anyway, the point is that we won't retire. Now, one guy who has retired, of course, is Neil Collins. Sorry, not Neil. No, it's Michael Collins. Neil Armstrong.
Michael Collins.
It was Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. They were the three in the spaceship, and Neil Armstrong was the first one. Now, didn't you tell me years ago when you were in America that you're the only man alive knowing who was told to do one by Neil Armstrong?
He told me to F off, his
well,
precise words.
This is an absolute disgrace.
Which I said to him at the time.
This is the most heroic man in the world.
I know. I did say to him, this is not really befitting the first man to have ever walked on the moon.
Yeah.
It's absolutely extraordinary. Well, I had to ring him up because it was during the NASA space program when they were setting up the space shuttle.
Right.
It was the day that the space shuttle accident happened.
Oh, yes,
I think it was about 1986.
When it blew up with the woman astronaut on board.
With the teacher on board.
That was about 86.
It was 86. I just said that.
Oh, did you? Right.
You don't listen to anything I say, do you?
Not a lot.
It's completely incredible the way that you just block it all out.
Go on,
anyway, so I was asked by the paper I was working for in London to see if I could get hold of him, and I discovered that he was working as a professor at the University of Illinois, somewhere in Chicago.
Yeah.
And as you do sometimes, you just kind of...
In aeronautics, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
And space exploration, that kind of thing.
That was
well, because of course all astronauts are in fact
scientists.
Well, they are, but they're also they usually start off as pilots, don't they?
No, I'll tell you the story about Buzz Aldrin.
No, don't tell me the story about Buzz Aldrin.
Top naval pilot. Yeah, go on.
Well, they're all pilots. That's how they get into it, right?
That's right.
Anyway, so I managed to just get put through to him. I just rang the switchboard at the University of Illinois, whichever the school was that he was in, and I said, "Can I speak to Professor Neil Armstrong, please?" And they put me through, and this guy answers the phone.
Really?
And just Yeah, and I just had this vision of him sitting in a room in a desk, and I said, "Is that Neil Armstrong?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Is that the Neil Armstrong that walked on the moon?" Because you don't want to have that problem where you speak to some guy called Neil Armstrong.
Well, how many Neil Armstrongs do you think there are at Illinois University?
Well, there might be several.
No, rubbish.
It's not a very unusual name.
Rubbish. I don't know any other Neil Armstrongs in the
unlike
world.
you, I decided to check. Unlike you, I decided to check that I was actually talking to the right guy.
Is that the Neil Armstrong that walked on the moon? And what did he say? No, it's Neil Armstrong who invented the Ford T model.
He could have said, "I'm just a cleaner," couldn't he? He might have just been walking past answering the phone.
He said he was Neil Armstrong.
He did.
But you thought there was more than one Neil Armstrong in Illinois?
I just thought I should check.
What a jerk.
You know, I know that checking things is not your forte, right? Anyway, so I said, look, I'm terribly sorry to call you on this very sad day. However, what I would like is to hear from you, what you think of what's happened and, where you think NASA should go now.
Will it put the space race back?
Yeah, all those kinds of questions. And he said, well, I never speak to the press. I have never spoken to the press.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to speak to the press now.
Okay.
And I said, well, I'm really appreciate your...
I was impressed that you were from the Sunday Times or something.
He wasn't, no. I didn't care. Because normally that worked quite well in America.
Yeah,
they thought you were ringing him from London.
On Sunday Times.
London Times. And I said, well, the thing is, you're such an important figure in space exploration.
Yeah.
So I butted him up a bit and did the whole thing. And it went on for a while. I managed to keep him on the phone for quite a long time. But he still just kept saying, look, I'm terribly sorry. Very polite. He said, look, I can't speak to the press. I made a decision many years ago never to speak to the press about anything. And I just kept trying. Eventually, he said, look, you just don't seem to understand. I'm not talking to you. I don't want to talk to you. I'm never going to say anything to you. Why don't you just F off?
That's terrible.
And I just was shocked.
This is terrible.
Shocked.
What a revelation.
Beyond
what a revelation
belief.
here on Talk Sport.
And I said to him...
That's terrible.
I said, well, that's not very dignified of you, Mr. Armstrong.
Yeah.
And he said it again and slammed the phone down.
Shouldn't he be Professor Armstrong or something at this stage?
Well, I think I called him that. Yeah, he was Professor.
Yeah.
I didn't call him Prof. No, I know that's what you would have done. Maybe that would have made all the difference. I just said, look, I can't believe, I just can't. And I put the phone down. I can't believe that the first man to walk on the moon has said that to me.
Did you write your story on the basis of that?
No, I didn't want the story.
No,
I didn't have a story.
No, well, you should have got a story. If you talked to the first man on the moon for 20 minutes, even though he didn't tell you anything.
Yeah, but on the day
the reporter would have got a story out of it.
On the day that the space shuttle had blown up, which was a massive story. Nobody was that interested that a reporter had been told an expletive.
Even though it was Neil Armstrong. Yeah. But you see, now he went into aeronautics and all that. Now the second guy who stood on the moon, Buzz Aldrin, but it drove him mad. It literally drove him mad.
Well, he's one of the guys who had in later years started talking about seeing aliens. And all sorts of
absolutely,
other stuff.
yeah. But if you read his book, and so I'm not accusing him of being mad. I'm quoting from the book of his that I've read and all that. The problem with Buzz Aldrin was that he was a genius student who then joined the US military. He became the top pilot of all time, i.e. nobody ever did it as well as he did, right? He was topping all his examinations in aeronautics and, all this kind of stuff, and, engineering, that kind of stuff. He was top at everything he ever did. And then they weren't even told, until they got into the old spaceship, who was going to step on the moon first.
Yeah.
And when
I'm not sure they called it a spaceship, actually.
Well, you know what I'm talking about. Apollo 8, was it Apollo 13?
Apollo 13. No, it wasn't Apollo 13.
Oh, no, that was the one that went wrong.
That was the one that went on fire.
That's right. It was Apollo 16?
No.
15?
What, are you just going to keep guessing?
Well, I don't know what Apollo was.
Do you know? You're supposed
Apollo 11.
It was Apollo 11.
Apollo 11, see? So what's the problem?
He's helping you out again, isn't he?
No, nobody helped me out from behind the glass, honestly. Now, the point of the story is...
2 black marks.
When he suddenly found out he was going to be the second man on the moon, he found that very hard to handle.
Yeah.
And he admitted years later, it got him for years.
Do you think there was a bit of a rush at the door when they were sort of waiting to go out?
I don't know.
Suddenly the word came from Houston.
Yeah.
You know, that was the other thing, that when I went to Mission Control, another different time, Mission Control in Houston, which was huge on television.
Yes.
It's actually a tiny little room.
Right, okay.
It's very, very small.
Well, that size of the studio?
Well, a little bigger than this, but like a small school room. But it looks like it looks as though it's one of those massive kind of, banks and banks and banks of computers.
I've never been in one.
There was only about 30 people in it.
But on TV, it looks like a call centre for somebody like what's the name of that company sent out all the books? Amazon. Looks like a call centre for Amazon, doesn't it? But it's not. You're absolutely right. Anyway,
they do other things as well, by the way, Amazon.
Yeah, I know they do. Yeah. Well, they started with books, though, didn't they?
Well, that was what most people used them for.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that was years ago.
Nitpicking again. Anyway,
you get headphones on there,
my story here is that Buzz Aldrin wasn't just like a genius.
We are still playing Porky Bingo, by the way, for anybody who's
right.
waiting.
Okay. He wasn't
only half an hour before he came out with the first one.
Oh, well, okay. He wasn't just a genius, but he was a trouble genius because he was the second man to step on the moon. He thought it was grossly unfair because he thought that he was like the more, what's the word I'm looking? Probably the brighter of the astronauts, and therefore should have had the honour of being the first.
And when they came back, everyone was racing to interview Neil Armstrong.
Absolutely, and
he didn't tell them to F off, did he?
No. And
if he had, Buzz Aldrin might not have gone mad.
Well, that's right. Michael Collins was just circling round the moon.
You sure it was Michael Collins?
Yeah, Michael Collins, definitely in the shot, because the Michael Collins also had mental problems, because if the pod that went down, what was it called?
The lunar module.
The lunar module. Have you seen that in the Smithsonian in Washington?
I have.
It's literally made of foil.
I know.
It's made of silver foil.
Well, when I was talking to Andy Goldstein earlier, I mean, they now say that the computer that sent Apollo 11 to the moon was actually less powerful than this iPhone.
Exactly. That you've got in front of you. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing. And they had a thimbleful of fuel left when they actually touched down. You know, the Eagle has landed.
Right.
What was the name of the desert it landed on? It was... what was it called?
What, you mean the part of the moon?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can. It was Paradise Beach or something.
No, I don't think so.
That's what they called it or something, to make it American, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, the point of the story is that...
I'm glad you've researched
Yeah. When they... hang on. When they were... It's something like Paradise Beach. I'll find that out in a minute.
You should have found it out before you came on.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to talk about it. But anyway, so what happened was, when they're training these astronauts, right, on a previous mission, when Buzz Aldrin had to moonwalk, that means you've got to go out of the capsule into space, and it's very stressful because one little asteroid...
spacewalk?
Spacewalk, yeah.
Not moonwalk.
Because
Michael Jackson
did. That's right. That's right. Yeah. You wanted a moonwalk because there was no moon.
Imagine if he'd come out of the space module.
It's a spacewalk. But anyway, point the story is...
Do you want to be starting something?
Yeah, starting something. So as he comes out and that wire uncoils, guess what? Down at Mission Control, in this little room that you're talking about, all these guys are huddled over a cup of coffee, Buzz Aldrin's blood pressure went down, not up. It was unheard of, because normally speaking, the stress and the tension and the unknowing of going out there, the blood pressure would rise in an astronaut, and they'd have to monitor him very carefully on the ground.
Right.
Buzz Aldrin's blood pressure and heartbeat went down. And it was inexplicable to all the scientists on the Earth who thought, this can't be true. How can a man get less stressed out doing this?
You don't think there was something wrong with their gadgets?
No, there was nothing wrong with their gadgets. They checked them and double-checked them. And his heartbeat actually reduced. It did not go up when he stepped out into space. A remarkable man who fought his demons for decades afterwards.
Yeah, a bit like yourself.
He's
Mike Parry, I'm Mike Graham, with more from the two Mikes coming up next. This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. Of course, that song, that tune should be familiar to an awful lot of people. The sad death over the weekend of the man who, of course, was in the Rockford Files.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. James Garner. It was great, wasn't he? Didn't you like that?
I loved that show.
That first introduced me to the idea of these people, these weirdos in, like, Malibu and all that, who live in caravans on the beach.
Yeah,
right?
Mobile homes.
Well, it's just a caravan, isn't it, to us? To us, it's, in this country, it's just a caravan living on the beach like that, and they do. And do you remember one of those... what was it called? You know...
I've no idea. It could be anything from the moon landings to, retirement. I don't know.
Another very famous actor who was in those films about going back in time. Sorry. His name's gone out of my head. Right, this actor is a really handsome guy. He was in 3 films with Danny somebody. He was a cop who was disturbed after Vietnam and all that. You know what I'm talking about.
He was in 3 films. Oh, you mean the Lethal Weapon movies?
Yes, that's right. Who's the lead actor in that?
You mean Mel Gibson?
Mel Gibson. Now he
the
lived
guy from Braveheart.
The guy from Braveheart, absolutely. Now he lived in a caravan. Do you remember? Because he took Patsy Kensit.
In Lethal Weapon, yeah.
In Lethal Weapon, he took.
Not in real life.
No. But he took Patsy Kensit back to his caravan, didn't he? For a bit of,
Then he got shut up by the guys in the helicopter.
All the guys in the helicopters came, blew it to pieces. Yeah, and he crawled under the floor.
He had a dog as well.
He had a dog who crawled under the floor.
We had a great text from somebody about dogs, but I can't read it out, it's too rude.
Really?
Likening you to a sniffer
dog. Me being
a
sniffer dog. Yeah. Anyway, the point of James Garner is a really genuine guy, and...
everybody loved him, apparently.
Everybody loved him. Now, I bet you didn't know this. His actual real surname was Bumgarner.
Bumgarner. So he was of German extraction.
He was, yeah. His father was of German extraction.
I'm not surprised he changed it.
Absolutely. And so his father was Otto Bumgarner, and he decided when he got to Hollywood that he would...
very good idea.
He would change it to Garner, but I know that, and he's deceased and departed, and rest in peace, but he had a good innings.
Why are you making the sign of the cross with your left hand?
Well, because I've got a pen in my right hand. But what I'm going to say here is...
What are you going to say?
He got...
It's almost impossible to know.
He got invalided out of the US Army for the most ridiculous of reasons.
What was it?
He was shot in the anus by his own side. He was accidentally shot in the buttocks by...
In the Bumgarner.
In the Bumgarner, absolutely. And I know we should be laughing about it, because...
Well, I suppose with a bit of luck, that means that he was ahead of everybody else, doesn't it?
No, because it was an aeroplane that shot him. It was friendly fire from an aeroplane.
Well, the Americans are very good at that.
They're very good at it, yeah, but I mean, what a reason to be invalided. But anyway, it worked for him. He got invalided out of the army, had to find another job, something to do, and he...
And it was one of those great shows of which there were many at that time. It was like Starsky and Hutch, there was Cannon,
there was... Cannon, what, the guy in the wheelchair?
No, that was Ironside.
Oh, that was Ironside.
Was
Remember the famous line in that, I couldn't make it to the hearing today, I got a flat in my wheelchair.
Yeah, no, Cannon was the really fat guy.
Cannon was a big fat, huge guy.
And at some point or other during the show, he would have to be... There'd be a car chase, right? And this guy who was about 35 stone would get out of the car, but he would always catch them.
But even though he moved at a pace slower than a modern day Alan Brazil,
it was like a slug.
Yeah.
But he always caught them.
Didn't you notice he also always had a massive car? Because he was such a massive bloke. They had to find a car with a big enough front seat to get him in. He was a huge guy, and the best line in James Garner, and the Rockford Files and all that was, I remember once, somebody came up to him and saying, "Okay, buddy, what do you do?" He said, "I'm a private dick." Right. Which has a meaning in this country, which of course the Americans didn't immediately pick up on,
Exactly right.
Dick.
I mean, but very sad that he died. I mean, I don't know what he did after the Rockford Files. He was never really in much else,
Well, the Rockford Files was the end of his career. That was the end of his acting career. If you think about it, he was about 87.
He retired after that then?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. He was about 87 when he died, and
so that was about 30 years ago.
Yeah, about that, something like that. I saw him in a great feature film, which I was thinking about as I was thinking about talking to you about this. Barbarians at the Gates. Do you remember this? And it was about mega powerful.
That was a Wall Street. That was a Wall Street story.
It was a Wall Street story, and he lost the company jet. He had to fly for the first time in his life.
It was about the RJ, wasn't it? The RJ Nabisco story, the biscuit company.
It was
because I used to write about Wall Street in those days, back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And Barbarians at the Gate was the story of Henry Kravis and the whole kind of Kohlberg Kravis Roberts company.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I remember the closing shots. He and his wife were sitting in the first class compartment of an aeroplane flying across America, but that was their demise.
Right.
They'd lost the company jet because he'd lost the battle for power and all that
flying,
kind of stuff.
You were telling me earlier on today that you flew on Concorde, which technically makes you an astronaut. Going back to the whole walking on the moon thing.
It does.
I don't believe that.
No, it does.
How does it? Do you get a certificate or something?
Well, you don't get a certificate, but you get told. I was talking to the pilot when we got to where we were going, and
where were you going?
British Guiana.
British Guiana?
Yeah.
On Concorde?
Yeah.
Where from?
From Paris.
Why'd you go there?
Because the French were launching a new satellite, and they launched them in British Guiana.
Really?
So what the satellite company...
So this was some kind of junket you were on?
It was a junket. It was a junket, definitely, yeah.
Deary me.
And I only went
That's a long flight, isn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't going to go.
Did they take you off on a stretcher at the end of that?
No, it's not a long flight at all. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I wasn't going to go, and then I bumped into a girl in Fleet Street who was very, very good looking, and who I'd fancied for a long time, and she told me she was going.
Oh, right.
And I thought, oh, really? So, because I was the boss at the Express at the time, and I thought, oh, that might be worth going on after all. So I rang them back up and I said, look, I will come after all, make sure I'm sitting next to so-and-so, you know what I mean? Yeah, it was all staged. And
so you ended up just manufacturing a reason to go on this freebie so you could sit next to this woman?
Well, I wanted to get off with her when we got over there, we stayed in a 5-star hotel. In fact, it wasn't a 5-star hotel.
Is that what happened?
Or
did she turn you down?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. First of all...
That's a shocking, a shocking use of your power.
No, not at all. Not at all. I was stressed out at the time, working 8-day weeks and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So what happens is, we all gather at Heathrow.
Are you sure you didn't put the moves on her while you were in flight?
Yeah, I did. I sat next to her, yeah. And it's
pretty... champagne all the way.
Oh, yeah, pretty romantic. Actually, it's a very small plane, Concorde.
It's a very small plane. There's only 2 seats on either side.
2 seats on either side. When you get up, your head hits the ceiling, even if you're, 5'8" and 3/4 like me. By the way, that was interesting. Ms. Wozniacki, who won a tournament on the same day as her ex-boyfriend, Rory McIlroy, said in an after match, I'll be going out celebrating tonight. For the first time in a few years, I'll be able to wear heels. Making out that she was taller at 5'10" than Rory is at 5'9". Not very nice. Anyway, so back to the Concorde. So we fly from London down to Senegal, which I'd never been to before. They park the Concorde on the tarmac, and we all get off and go and have a sherbet in the what do you call it, the lounge.
Senegal's a weird place.
Senegal's very weird indeed. But it's the most north-south, it's the most western point on Africa. You see, so you fly down to Senegal, you refuel the Concorde because it hasn't got a huge capacity, and then you take off and you fly from Senegal to British Guiana.
Why are you blowing your nose while you're talking?
No, I'm sorry, I'm just wiping my nose because it's starting to run about. I'm getting a bit of the hay fever again, and. It took 2 hours and 20 minutes to cross the Atlantic. How about that?
Incredible.
I mean, utterly incredible. So we landed in British Guiana.
You used to be able to take off from New York and arrive before you'd left, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think you did, yeah. But, yeah, with the time difference and all that, yeah. But anyway, so then we fly over to British Guiana, we land, and it's a pretty barren...
There's not a lot there, is there?
There's not a lot there. So because it was only a 3-day trip, they just left the Concorde parked there, literally. And it was a massive, tourist attraction. All the locals came out, and people were coming in from French Guiana.
I'm more interested in your romantic liaison with your employee.
Well, this is the point.
This is the point. A lot like harassment to me.
So anyway, there's one nightclub in Guyana, or whatever the capital of it's called. I don't know what it's called.
No idea.
No, and we're all in there. And the night before we came back, and by the way, the satellite never took off because it rained. It rained all the time, and they said, I'm sorry, but we're cancelling the launch. So we flew all the way there to see a launch of something that never got launched. We're in the nightclub on the last night, torrential downpour, rain coming down. And there's a bloke sitting on the end of the bar, and this is an Air France Concorde, by the way, and he is paralytic, and he can hardly, and he's the pilot of the Concorde. No, I joke not. We couldn't believe it, We said, I'm going to be all right tomorrow. He said it's easier than driving a train. And I said, oh, right, okay, then. Well,
which is on rails, funnily enough.
Exactly, yeah. At least the train knows where it's going intrinsically, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely right.
But no, the romance didn't work out.
No, funnily enough. Derek in Pencoed, our regular correspondent, says, please tell that numpty Porky that the Apollo 11 mission landed on the 20th of July 1969. Well, I think it's the 21st, actually.
Yeah, it was 21st.
But he does say the Sea of Tranquility.
Sea of Tranquility, thank you.
So not Paradise Beach.
Well,
Pencoed, you plonker.
This is Talk Sport.
I knew it was something like that. What is this?
This is just a song about people who are not all right in their mind, really.
So, and why are you playing this? I hope you're not taking the mickey out of us.
It's nothing to do with me. I don't choose the music for the show.
Well, yeah, but
the producer Dave behind the glass chooses the music for the show.
But you need to know why it's in your show, because if you don't know why it's in your show, you've lost control of this show.
Well, I don't have control of the show.
And you are culpable.
I don't have control of it.
You're culpable of being, lacking in due care and attention to the output. That's what I'm saying.
I am not at all in any way to blame for the music on this show.
Well, why have we just played that? What's the relevance
of it? I've no idea.
Well, you better find out.
Maybe it's something to do with your brain and how it works.
No, I don't think so at all.
Now, just before we do the next thing that we're about to do, Dennis says this, listen, guys, it ain't nothing for an American to tell an Englishman to F off, even if that old person walked on the moon. He's used another word there, which I can't use. And then we've got a great one here from Julie, who says, sent this into @IROMG and @Mike Parry. I was suspicious as to why my boyfriend decided to offer to do a night feed with our daughter, and then I realised you're on the radio with Mike Parry. So this guy sneaked away, pretending that he's going to feed his daughter, and he's actually listening to the radio.
Do you know what? My voice is very soothing to children.
Is it?
It's very soothing to children. In fact, I've got a picture which I'll show you sometime of a little girl.
What, like the picture of you and Joan Collins together?
I've got that picture.
And the picture of you and Bill Clinton together.
I found the picture of me and Joan Collins.
Which I've never seen. Well, will you bring it on Thursday?
Yeah, I may do. I might do.
I don't
what
about the Vuvuzela you were going to bring in?
The Vuvuzela?
All this stuff you keep saying you're going to bring in.
I've got a Vuvuzela.
It's all in your head, isn't it?
No, it's not in my head at all, but I don't have to impress you. The day
that I feel better.
It's
not about impressing me.
I feel better. Oh, I feel better because I've impressed old MG today.
It's nothing to do with impressing me.
I will retire.
No, it's got nothing to do with impressing me. It's got to do with
Bingo!
Doing what you're supposed to do when you promise to bring something in and show it, and then you don't. I start to wonder if it actually exists.
Oh, yeah.
It's as simple as that. Now, let's talk about Rory McIlroy. Because here's something that you may remember doing on Friday on the show.
Well, the doubts build up inside his head as he strikes the ball from the tee. And he sees the rustling in the grass as the wind blows in from the sea. Then the ball lands in a bunker and he hates the clinging sand. 'Cause there ain't nobody and he needs somebody who can give him a helping hand. Tell me why he don't like Fridays. Tell me why he don't like Fridays.
No, you see, that's the bit you got wrong.
Why? I don't know.
Because you were telling me that Rory McIlroy can't play in the second day of any big tournament. That's what you said. Your whole song was about how he was going to mess it up on Friday.
No.
Because he was frightened of Fridays.
No.
That's what the whole song was.
I said I would help him. So he has a great Thursday, great start, a 66, okay? Yeah. That was recorded on Thursday night. I said, good luck, Rory, for tomorrow. Put it out.
It wasn't good luck. You were saying he didn't like Fridays.
He's clearly been listening. He's clearly been up late. He's clearly not been able to sleep because of his exciting first round. He's had a listen to that. He thought, gosh, I've got to pull myself together. It's day 2. It's Friday. Old Porky has suddenly put it all in perspective for me. I'm going to do better tomorrow. And he shoots another 66.
So this is your claim. He shot a 68, didn't he?
No, 2 66s.
Are you sure?
Absolutely certain. 2 66s. What was his score on Sunday? 68 on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it was. It was minus 17 altogether, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's something else that I was noticing was the weird shoes that all these golfers are now wearing. Because
some are wearing like plimsolls.
Well, they seem to be wearing very, very different golf shoes. I had a look on the internet actually for Rory's shoes because they're all Nike. See, Nike are going to give him another £5 million, by the way, for winning the Open. It's on the back of one of the papers this morning.
For wearing the hat with the tick on and the shirt
because he's won the Open, it's now worth more money
blimey.
to them. So they're going to give him an extra bonus payment of £5 million.
Well, he got a cheque for just under $1 million, didn't he?
Just under $1 million.
Prize money, yeah.
And then his dad won 180,000, didn't he, for betting that he would win the Open within the next 10 years.
In a consortium of 4 of them.
Yeah,
so they got 45 grand
each. Not a bad day's work.
Very good.
But his shoes, you can buy a pair if you're thinking of venturing out on the golf course and aping what he does. You can actually buy a pair of...
Aping? Yeah. Thought we'd done Planet of the Apes.
Well, that was unbelievable, wasn't it? Funnily enough, all those movies were on over the weekend as well.
And
I actually watched the first one, which was the one, the sequel to whatever it was.
What did you think of it?
I actually thought it was really good.
Yeah, I think they're good.
I think it was excellent. And also watched the old ones as well. They were on too. Yeah. And put a few things out on social media. Lots of people were reacting to that. But you can buy them for about 110 quid. These new golf shoes.
It's expensive.
But I don't like them. I'm a bit more of a traditionalist. I like the brogue style golf shoes.
Well, I like black ones to start off with.
I still have white and black.
Well, how many years ago was it that the huge tongue on the front disappeared off golf shoes? And why was it there in the first place?
It was there in the first place to protect your laces, because the laces were the only part that let the water in.
That's right.
And if you're in the rough,
that's right.
Obviously the grass is
Well,
wet.
not even if you're in the rough, Mark. If you walk in the fairway and there's dew on the course, it gets into your boots.
It doesn't come up above your laces, though.
Well, it does. It splashes up. It does.
No,
but anyway, it
does. It doesn't.
It splashed up when I played.
Well, it would do. Yeah. But if you were playing in some kind of marshy kind of area,
I
mean, when I play in the great golf courses of the world, they don't have marshes on them, so you stand in the rough. And the rough is high enough to come up to your waist, and it's very wet, and so that was why that tongue thing was there.
So why is the tongue gone?
Well, the tongue's gone, I presume, because they've been able to manufacture a golf shoe which doesn't really have laces in the same way. Yeah,
it's true.
A lot of them have got Velcro, or they've got
a fold actually underneath the two sides of the shoe, if you see what I mean, underneath the lace holes.
They've come up with new technology, haven't they?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
But no, it was fantastic for Rory to win it. Obviously, I was worried that you were going to jinx him in the last minute because you were tweeting all weekend about how he was going to win it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he almost lost. He almost let Sergio Garcia catch him up.
I felt extremely confident of By the way, you spent the weekend down at your country house, did you?
I did.
Yeah, OK. Now, I need to talk to you about this, mate. You've seen pictures probably over the weekend of houses bursting into flames through lightning strikes.
There was an amazing lightning storm, apparently, on Friday night.
Yeah.
I completely slept through it.
Well,
I didn't hear any of it.
I was down on the coast this weekend, and the lightning over Portsmouth Harbour was fearsome.
Apparently, it was forked lightning everywhere.
Forked lightning everywhere. Isle of Wight, nearly disappeared under a deluge of rain and all that kind of stuff. Right now, point I've got to make to you, mate, is this.
Bingo! You nearly said it, didn't you?
As a responsible father, if you are a responsible father.
Of course I'm a responsible father.
Need
you ask?
I assume that you have moved your children's bedroom, that's your two boys, your two sons, from the upstairs of the house to the downstairs of the house during this period of turbulent weather, because if you don't, you are irresponsible to the nth degree, because if lightning strikes your house and sets fire to your roof... And
why would it do that?
Well, you could be downstairs intoxicated, and your house is on fire.
I'm never downstairs
blazing upstairs, your boys are trapped in a bedroom, it's a blazing house.
What sort of maniac are you?
I'm only telling you what's happened. I'm only telling you what's happened. I'm only telling you what has happened. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Well, first of all, you may have seen it with your own eyes.
Houses burst into flames in electrical storms.
Yes, but do you know when lightning strikes an object? That object, normally speaking, is the highest point in that particular place, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you shouldn't have your children sleeping underneath the highest point in the place.
Because
the roof... my logic, you can't get round it.
I can get round it because the highest point of my immediate dwelling is not the house itself, because there are many trees which are higher than the house. So if there was to be a lightning strike, it would hit the tree first.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, it would.
No, it wouldn't. If it comes down above the house, it hits the house.
Rubbish.
It's not going to look. A bit of lightning's not coming down. Suddenly thinking, oh, there's Mike Graham's house. I think we'll just divert to the right and hit the tree.
No, it strikes the highest point.
Well,
always.
Yeah, but the highest point of a house is the apex of the roof.
Yeah, but if
that's
there's
what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I'm saying if there's a tree near the house, which is another 50
I don't know anything
feet
about
high.
that, mate.
Well, of course you don't.
I don't know anything about that.
It's very clear. And apart from worried about my children, which you don't need to, thank you very much indeed, because I'll look after them.
Oh, will you?
Yes,
even when you're intoxicated?
Listen, I'm never intoxicated to the point where I can't look after my children. How dare you?
By the way, I've given up drink almost entirely now.
What?
Almost entirely.
Since when?
Almost entirely.
Since when?
Almost entirely. It's a conscious decision made over the weekend. Almost entirely.
Is this because of your dodgy knee?
No,
medication you're taking.
Actually, it's funny you should say that.
You're still limping, by the way.
Yeah.
How's the rash?
Well, it's worse, and I'll tell you why. Because I was taking some specialist advice.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes there's a debate about now when you've got a muscle pull or a dodgy joint or something like that, is it better to apply cold or apply heat?
Yeah.
So some people put a water bottle on it full of boiling water. Some people put an ice pack on it, right?
Right.
So I say to the specialist, and he says, she said, physio, she said, it doesn't matter. It's designed to stimulate the nerve ends. She said, actually, the best combination is a bit of each.
Yeah.
I said, OK,
fine.
Well,
I mean, my father used to say that you could put your hand under the hot tap and the cold tap if you had a sore hand, and that was a good way to deal.
Right, OK, well, there you go, see, even your father, nutty old father that you had...
He was not nutty.
He was.
He was actually very knowledgeable about a great many things, including medicinal purposes.
Yeah, he was rather eccentric, wasn't he?
He was a bit eccentric,
yeah. Exactly, yeah. So what I did is I boiled the kettle, right, and I thought, right, that kettle's cooled down, so I then... closed my eyes, grimaced, and I put the kettle... Oof!
Well, it's just the cordless kettle you're talking about.
I've just punched myself in the knee where it most hurts.
This is the cordless kettle.
Demonstrate the cordless kettle. So what,
you put the base of it?
No, the side of it. I put the
side of a kettle on your knee?
Yeah, on the side of my knee.
It reminds me of that show Branded.
Well, it was a bit like that, because immediately I felt intense pain.
That's an idiotic thing to do.
Well, I didn't realise at the time. I felt intense pain, and I thought, oh, well, that must be doing me good,
If you're going to put hot temperature on your knee, it's not boiling kettle.
Well,
I've been told to warn the audience not to try this at home.
No, don't try this at home, please, because then I took the kettle away to realise, and my skin was very red, but I thought, well, that's just...
You burned it?
Well, I didn't know that at the time. I thought that was just a heat thing, you know what I mean?
What sort of an idiot are you?
No, so then I applied the ice, and you can't believe the pain.
How was the ice transferred? Was it in a bag or what? Or just hold it?
No. I had, I've got an ice container to put ice in drinks. What's it called? An ice bucket.
An ice bucket.
So I had the ice bucket there with a load of ice in it.
Yeah, but
out of the freezer.
You didn't put it in a plastic bag?
No, I took it out, and because I had a towel on the floor, and I held it on her. But Now, that was excruciatingly painful.
I bet.
And I only found out later, when I was doing some more research, that actually that was the favourite torture of the Spanish Inquisition.
I didn't know they had kettles.
No, they didn't, but they used to hang people up over fires and burn them, and then smother ice and cold things all over their wounds.
Did they have ice as well, then?
Yeah, they had ice.
How did they make ice in the Spanish Inquisition times?
Well, how they made ice...
They didn't have electricity.
No, they did have ice.
How did they have ice?
They used to dig really deep holes, about sort of 20 or 30 feet down. No, they did. And
unbelievable.
They did.
They did not have ice during the Spanish Inquisition.
They did. Because they dig these deep holes, right, and they fill them full of water, and then in the winter it all freezes, and then they fill.
So they can only torture people in the winter. Is that what you're saying?
No. And then they fill the hole in, and it stays ice. It stays ice right through the summer, and they have a little
absolute cobblers.
No, they have a little tunnel to go down into the room where the ice
tunnel.
is. Yeah, the ice tunnel. That's
right. I didn't expect the ice tunnel. It's rubbish.
It's not
rubbish. I've never heard so much
It's
nonsense.
Not rubbish. It's not rubbish. And sometimes they had so much ice that when they burnt somebody over the fire, they'd then strap onto an ice bed, right? And
they're cheap forms of torture, I believe, with the rack.
And
the soft cushions, of course.
Well, the rack was. The other one they used to do was they used to hang a guy from a beam, right? And then the
thumb screws and things they had, didn't they?
Oh, it was awful. But they'd let the beam drop at only 3 feet,
right?
So that when they pulled it, yanked it, stop again, his arms came out of their sockets.
Yeah.
So you had a human being hanging there, literally by the flesh around his shoulders.
I'll take you there the next time we go to Borough Market for a drink. The place called the Clink. Have you been there?
No, I've been to the London Dungeon.
Yeah, well, this is actually more authentic than the London Dungeon because it's not so showbizzed up.
I don't like looking at torture
It was the original prison that they used to have for people back in the 12th century or something.
Right.
And they've got, because it's part of where the floodplain of the Thames used to be before they put the big wall up. It's right around the back of the Globe Theatre.
Right, okay.
They used to actually have men in these pits, and every time the tide came in, they would just drown.
Well, that's not very nice, is it?
No, it's a great way of rejuvenating the prison population, making room.
Yeah, sounds... Anyway, ghastly. I can't stand torture and all that. In fact, sometimes
I really like torture.
No.
Well, nobody likes it.
Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and think, thank God I wasn't, captured by the Spanish Inquisition or something like that, or even ended up in a North Korean jail or something like that. I thank my lucky stars. Thank you, God, for allowing me to be brought up in a civilised country.
Well, you can torture yourself with the ice and kettle method. Very interesting.
I did, yeah.
Mike Porky Parry will be back on Thursday, at which point we'll give another test. I think this week's test is going to be on philosophy, which he also claims to be an expert in. And we'll be talking about the Commonwealth Games, of course, which will be underway by then as well, up in Glasgow. We've got loads and loads more to do. Thank you very much.
The Isle of Man's represented in the Commonwealth Games.
Is it?
Well, one of the cyclists wanted to ride for the Isle of Man, didn't he?
What, Mark Cavendish?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Did he?
Yeah, I think so.
Blimey, how extraordinary. You learn something every day with the Porkmeister. He'll be back on Thursday. 2 Mike's podcast will be out a little bit later on today, of course, on iTunes.